Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the February 14th Oklahoma City Planning Commission meeting and wish you happy Valentine's Day. And special welcome to Kevin George, our former colleague. He's here today as an applicant, and we're happy to see Kevin. If you are not the applicant and you are here today to talk about a case we're going to hear, we would ask you to fill out one of these sheets. They're available on the table outside the chambers, and we'd be happy to hear you when we hear that item. If you have pagers, cell phones, or other devices, we would ask you to either silence or turn those off for us now if you would do that. And the first order of business is to approve the January 24th minutes.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Cast your votes. And we've got everybody up. Good. The minutes are approved. First is continuous request, Russell.
We have 7 items that are uncontested requests for continuance, items 30 through 36. This is item 30 is C6424. Item 31 is SPUD 698. Item 32 is PC 10234. Item 33 is C6405. Item 34 is PUD 1481. These are all continued until February the 28th. Item 35, C6423, is continued until March the 14th. Item 36 is PUD 1469. That has been withdrawn.
I have several people signed up on item 36 today. On any of the others, is anyone here today to address the items that were just read? We're about to withdraw item 36. Is there something you wish to say? Those of you who've signed up? You come forward, give us your name and address, and I'd ask you to be brief since this is something that's now behind us.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Pastor Jesse Jackson of the East 6th Street Christian Church, 1139 Northeast 6th Street in Oklahoma City. We were just happy to be here. We want to thank the Planning Commission for your due diligence, and thank you for your patience throughout this process. And we have with us several of our residents from our area here, and we came down and exercised our constitutional rights earlier today, and we are grateful for this, but we are going to continue to try to work with the Planning Commission and all those who were involved that we spoke with last time. We were here 90 days ago, so that we can continue to move this along, because it's not over. We don't believe that it's over, and we want to, as we said, be partners and not be a victim to progress.
Well, I would encourage you to continue the dialoguing process.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McDaniel?
Good evening. I'm Diane McDaniel. My address is 617 North Everest Avenue, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I do want to thank the Planning Commission for their due diligence, but the rumor is, and I'm just going to give you the scenario, the rumor is that the Urban Renewal, who owns about 78% of the property in that area, plus the OU Board of Regents, have agreed to zone the land that they own as commercial, which leaves us to wonder what's going to still happen to the areas that we live in. Will those now, we still don't have infill housing. And if that occurs, then there will be no building. Now, we want to go on record in saying we want the expansion. I think it would be great for the city of Oklahoma City. It would go to help everyone. But all we ask is that you meet us at the table of understanding. We're stakeholders in this too. And apparently, OU Health Science Center are not aware that we want to be a part of it. We want to become partners. We want to do it. And I think we can do that, but we have only met with attorneys, not the people who are making the plans. Okay?
Well, my thought in listening to you is, first of all, I'm not familiar with the rumors, so I don't have any way to respond to those. We will respond as a planning commission if applications come before us. which is, of course, what we have to do. If you're able to communicate and dialogue with the people you need to, we certainly encourage that that process continue.
But we have tried. We've tried with the attorneys, and they have failed to call us. The other thing, we just don't think that the process of rezoning is over. Okay?
It never is anywhere in the city, is
That is true.
all I can say. But
That
thank you
is
very
true.
much for coming down.
Thank you.
Reverend Peoples?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you, this honorable body again. I can appreciate the fact that what Reverend Jackson has said and Ms. Daniels has said and what has happened in the meantime. So I want to thank you, first of all, for your wisdom in postponing this action until today, which you did, I believe, back in December. And in the meantime, based upon the agenda here, that item to rezone has been withdrawn. However, we were informed when we were here in December that the year of 2023, that there will be another rezoning. That's already, I believe, in the plans of the Planning Commission, and I'm not clear what that would call for at that time. But like Ms. Daniels has said and Reverend Jackson has said, we're not opposed to progress. But I want to propose to this honorable body today, and even as I look around in this chamber today, I believe that I am the oldest person in this room. And the area that is under discussion is an area, and the only area left in Oklahoma City, to my knowledge, where African Americans receive their foundation for life. I was one of them. That area is where I received my foundation. And that foundation enabled me to go to other great cities in this great country of ours and be a part of the social and the civic and the political and the religious and the educational operations of that city. And so I come back to my homeland, to my roots. And I was really disturbed. And what I would like to ask this body to consider is that that same area where the medical center is wanting to expand to and has now withdrawn, but that area would be designated as either a national or a state historic area, with statues of people such as Edmund Page, Roscoe Dunjee, F.D. Moon, many of the females whose name have escaped my memory, because when you get 80 years old, you don't think quite like you did when you were 25. Because otherwise, there will be no place in Oklahoma City where future generations can observe statues such as the statue of Martin Luther King in Washington now, and Carter G. Woodson, and I believe Virginia, and places such as that. Many of the other persons who had made tremendous contributions to this city. As a matter of fact, African Americans were in this city before this city became a state, before this state became incorporated, I should say. So I'm simply asking that inasmuch as it has been withdrawn, and inasmuch as there are some plans for at least 2023, and I would like that someone would share what that plan is supposed to be, because it was mentioned here at the last meeting. But moreover, that this honorable body would consider or advise us as to how to make that area a federal or a state historic district. Otherwise, there will be no place for future generations to observe the land that provided the foundation for many of us. When Douglas High School was the only high school in Oklahoma City, and incidentally the oldest high school in the city, in the state, and they provided a foundation for people such as myself and many others to make, I think, significant contributions to this country. And so that's what I would ask your advice, your counsel on how to make that happen. And I think that it would be a tremendous tourist attraction, such as other cities where they have African American museums and the like. If there was in this city a national or state park with all of those statues of those outstanding people who provided the education and the moral values, the spiritual values, for persons such as myself to leave and go to one of the major cities in this country and to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with governors and mayors and attorneys and judges. And it ought to be known that it is a historic area where people such as John W. Peoples came from. It carried me all the way from Oklahoma into Canada and back into the States and eventually back home. This is my home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming down today. Commissioners, now we need to vote on continuances, items 30 through 36.
I move approve the continuances.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve of the continuances of items 30 through 35 and the withdrawal of item 36. Cast your votes. And that is done. Other continuance requests, Russell?
Just before, Mr. Peoples, there is a process for designation of districts for historic preservation. There's a zoning category that we have in the city. In terms of some of the other stuff you were looking for,
I'm sorry.
there is a process for designation of districts for historic preservation. In terms of some of the other things you were asking for, I don't think we have precedent for that. Come on this one.
Oh, okay.
We don't have precedent for that here, and that appears as though that has other levels of government that would need to be involved in that. But I'd be happy if I'd have my staff talk to you about what those options are. So if you want to contact the planning department, we'll be happy to talk to you about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kloss.
I'm the planning department, this is the planning commission, so there's a separation. I'm paid, they're not.
Which is something we'd like to take up, but another day. Other continuance requests?
We have multiple new requests for continuance. Item 10 is CE 847, a request to continue until March the 14th. All the following items are to be continued until February the 28th. These are item 13, which is C6431, item 21, PUD 1475, item 22, C6388, item 23, PUD 1482, item 24, C6426, item 25, PC 10332, item 26, C6422, item 27, PUD 1480, and item 28, C6418.
I'll let the room clear. You folks in the back can move forward now. There's plenty of room. It saves some time later. Mr. Anderson. Thank you. Now, the additional continuance requests read were items 10, 13, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Is anyone here to address us on any of those today?
Move the additional continuance.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the additional continuances. Cast your votes. Are there any additional continuance requests from the public today? If not, we'll go to the consent docket.
There are 5 items on consent. Item 1 is a public hearing extending the corporate limits of the city to address a street on the north part of the city. Item 2 is C6342. Item 3, 6433. Item 4, 6434. And item 5, C6040.
Anyone come to address those today?
Chairman, I have a question on number 3.
Well, we're deleting TE3.
Pardon me?
We're going to delete
I have
TE3.
a question on the application.
Okay. We'll hear item 3 in order then. So a motion to approve items 1, 2, 4, and 5. So moved. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes, and those are approved.
And item 3 is the final plat of Southwestern Avenue Storage.
Give us your name
Good
and address.
afternoon. Jason Spencer with Craft and Toll representing the applicant.
Okay.
On item 3, we'd requested that TE number 3 regarding the limits of no access from the intersection of Southwest Center, 49th and Western. We've requested that be removed. The current PUD zoning on that allows for 150 feet of separation, and we wish to hold with that at this time.
My only question about this application, otherwise I would have approved the consent docket, is that this mini storage that you're proposed to put on this piece of property, is it subject to the current guidelines that we have on mini storage, like roof pitch, materials, et cetera?
They all are.
Okay, this was, the reason why, Russell, is because this is a PUD 13B, which is, I didn't know if we had the guidelines that apply to mini storage to something that goes back in history this far.
Yeah, this was adopted way prior to the current mini storage guidelines, so it would just have to be developed in accordance with whatever 13B calls for.
Whatever they are today,
Yeah.
right?
No, whatever 13B calls for,
As it was back
in
then.
the PUD.
Sorry, I was wrong.
Well, then you've answered my question. Can we fix that?
No? It is what it is.
So you could put whatever you want to on this and just,
No, he can build whatever personal storage
whatever.
standards were at the time of his PUD.
However, I would just encourage that you be fruitful and diligent in doing something more than what it was back before you and I were born.
We will.
Is that a motion, or will there be a motion?
Yeah.
Second. Okay, a motion and a second to approve item 3, deleting TE3. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On items requiring separate vote, item 6 is V8-5803. This is an application by Four Corners Homes for a variance to the subdivision regs at 11332 Marbella Drive in Rio de Bella Edition.
Hello, Commission. Dusty Bourne, co-owner of Four Corners Homes, 6180 Boucher Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma. So we're asking for a variance to get a final certificate of occupancy for this home that we constructed. It's in the Rio de Bella neighborhood. Amanda Carpenter, who I believe is here, can speak to more, but the final CO has been held up while we're waiting for the final 1.5 inches of asphalt to be overlaid on the existing development within Rio de Bella to bring that up to city standards. So I've come before you once before on this same very topic, and we have another home completed, ready for a homeowner to move into, and we need to get that final certificate of occupancy.
Do you have any expectation as to when that's going to occur, the additional pavement?
I've spoke to Amanda, and the final bid process has been done, and basically they have about 120 days now to complete that work, and they expect it to be done within that time frame.
Where are we on that legally, Dan? I don't know, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Dan, has a work order been done? What's the status? I read the comment in our staff report that leads me to believe that, they were going to be well on their way by the end of January. Well, we're somewhat past that. Are they performing?
Yes. It's going to take some time.
Well, no, I understand, but they are.
Yes.
They are performing.
Yes.
And if they don't perform, what's our recourse at this point? Contempt?
Recourse against the bond.
Okay. Thank you.
We need a motion.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 6. Cast your votes. And you're approved.
Thank you.
Item 7 is a similar item, V9-5803, an application by Hilltop Custom Homes for a variance to the subdivision regs at 10925 San Lorenzo Drive, Rio Bella Edition.
Applicant here.
Same thing, move approval.
Second. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve item 7. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Item 8 is ABC 776, application by Founders Steakhouse for an ABC 2, overlaying PUD 1232 at 5900 Mostola Drive in Ward 2.
Hello, I'm Kevin George, representing Founders Steakhouse for this ABC 2 zoning. And if you have any questions, I think I can probably answer them. We just start off, I guess, quickly by saying we did not apply for ABC 3. I guess sometime in the future we could come back and ask for that, only because we plan on having some high-end wine cellar that could possibly create a wine sales over food sales, just because of the dollar values. But it's going to be a high-end steakhouse comparable to a Ruth Chris or something like that. So we'll be open for lunch also.
Kevin, does it still go around and around?
It does.
I mean, the motor still works after all these years?
Yeah, it's still. Yeah, it still operates. Absolutely. I think it was built in about 59 and still running.
Just one other question, Kevin.
Yeah.
What's the difference from being down there than up here?
You just get the other side. I get to see all the faces in one view here.
Move approval.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
No one signed up, Commissioner, so it's okay to make a motion, and you did. We have a motion and a second to approve item 8. Cast your votes, and you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 9 is CE 846, is an application by Four Corners Construction at Oakdale Park to close a portion of a 10-footed alley or easement in Lot 6 and 7 in Oakdale Park Addition.
Dusty Bourne, co-owner, Four Corners Homes, 6180 Boucher Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma. These 3 lots here, we did a lot combine on these 3 lots, and this was a easement for OG&E to bring in a utility line. We worked with OG&E, we're moving that, and we're going to be we've done a lot split already, and so we're going to be taking the 3 lots, turning them into 2 and building 2 homes as opposed to 3.
No one has signed up, Commissioners?
Dusty, have you read the staff recommendation?
I apologize, I have not. Oh, yeah, actually. Dwight Butler, Anchor Engineering, is here to answer further questions. Go ahead, Dwight.
Like you're disguised, Dwight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Dwight Butler with Anchor Engineering on behalf of the applicant. And we do agree to TE number 3. As a matter of fact, I have already delivered the revised legal description to staff so that it does reflect that 15 feet shorter.
Move approval. Motion is second to approve item 9. Cast your votes. And it's approved.
Thank you very much.
Item 10 has been continued until March the 14th. Item 11 is ABC 777, an application by Jared Holly for an ABC 3 overlaying the downtown business district, 228 Northeast 2nd Street, in Ward 7.
Thank you. This is Jared Holly, the applicant. I'm Randy Malone, 209 Southwest 89th Suite F, Oklahoma City. If you have any questions, Jared can answer.
Commissioners, any questions?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 11. Cast your vote. And you're approved. Thank you.
Item 12 is SPUD 699, application by Louis LLC to rezone 11626 North I-35 Service Road from C1 and I-1 districts to SPUD 699 in Ward 7.
Is the applicant here? We'll move item 12 to the heel of the docket.
Item 13 has been continued until February the 28th. Item 14 is C6435, it's the final plat of Whispering Creek Phase 1 in Ward 3.
Good afternoon, Barry Lodge, Red Rock Engineering, representing the applicant. We've read over the TEs in the staff report, have no objection to those. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have of us. The owner, developer Rocky Clark, is here with me as well.
And you've turned in the items that you needed to the...
Yes, sir.
Okay. No one has signed up, Commissioners?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 14. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 15 is C6436, the final plat of Hampton Park in Ward 7.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Gray with Craft & Toll Associates, representing the applicant. I wanted to address a couple of the TEs just for clarification. I've been working with the planning staff to make sure that we're able to resolve all the TEs listed. On my report, number 6 was with respect to a small area at the north boundary should remain as a part in this plat as a common area. That piece of property is going to be deeded to the adjacent property owner, so we'll remove that. And then there was also a comment about the A and B designation. The owner intends that these duplex lots are sold together and not separated as an A or B. So we would request that would be removed.
Now we're deleting
Delete both TE 6 and 7.
And 3?
Don't do it.
Yes.
6 and 7?
Yeah.
6 and 7.
Okay. And no one has signed up, Commissioners?
Move approval of the application, deleting TE 6 and 7.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve item 15, deleting the TEs. Cast your votes. That's approved. Buck Irwin did not vote. He's not sitting there. Thank you.
Item 16 is SP 453. This is an application by the Referral Center for a special permit to operate a residential drug or alcohol treatment center in R3 medium density and I2 moderate industrial districts at 1401 Northwest 1st Street in Ward 6.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Bill Collins. I'm an attorney. I represent the Referral Center. Standing on my right is Don Burke, who is the executive director, and he'll make a presentation giving you more details than what I propose. Let me tell you a little bit about the Referral Center. It's one of the jewels of Oklahoma City you don't know about. It's been in existence for 31 years. It has a current location at 25th and Classen. Now, that's just within about 1.5 miles of my office, and in all honesty, until I got involved in this case a few months ago, I didn't know it existed. But what it does is takes people in who have terrible drug and alcohol addiction problems and saves their lives until they can get on their feet and go someplace else for longer-term care. Now, and that's at 25th and Classen. It's outgrown that facility. We're going to propose to keep that one, but we're going to add another campus at First and McKinley. Let me tell you what we've done. We were supposed to have come to the commission the first meeting in January, and it's been continued twice. From the time we were first supposed to come here, we've amended the application to conform with all the technical evaluations you had in your first staff report. We've met with protesters. Now, that was on January 3rd. Now, there's a significant protest, but I can tell you, in all honesty, and I'll stand to be corrected, when we met with them on January 3rd at Triple C Lighting, it's on place on Main Street, I didn't hear any objection as such against what we're proposing. 99% of the objections were about the transient that roamed this part of town. And I can tell you, it's horrible. But that's not a problem created by the referral center. I understand now there have been subsequent meetings between the city and the police chief and members of the area who own property and businesses out there, and hopefully some resolutions being made to resolve transient problems. We also heard complaints about this property because it's partially federally funded, it's tax exempt, and we heard complaints about this property not being on the tax rolls. But no, I don't remember ever hearing anything complaining about what this use is. Let me tell you what the referral center is. As I said before, this is a place that takes people in who are at critical stages of alcohol and drug addiction for a 10-day period, which is the average length of stay. They're given medication and done whatever is necessary to dry them out and clean them out. To the extent that they can take counseling, some counseling is given. But they learn how to live their lives all over again. After the 10-day period, they're then referred out, hence the name Referral Center, to more longer-term facilities. Now, let me tell you what the Referral Center is not. It's not a transient facility. The people who come to the Referral Center are there for a 10-day period. They don't come and go as they please. They're in there getting treatment. All these other facilities, all of these on page 8 of your staff report, with the exception of the city-county jail and the rehab center on 12th Street, are what I'll call transient facilities. People come and go for a short period of time, either to get fed, stay overnight. After they're fed or stay overnight, they hit the streets. That's not us. Referral Center is not a place for handouts. They don't take people off the street, give them food or water or house them or whatever. And it's also not a place of refuge for people who are not patients there. So this is not a source of the transient problem. To the contrary, my argument has been that to the extent that it gets people active and working, it resolves a transient problem, perhaps just some small degree, but it resolves what could become a transient problem. Now, the Referral Center, it's doing everything it can to move from public funding, and when Don Burke first got there, it was something like 99% public funding. Now it's at 61%. So it wants to become privatized. Ultimately, it may be even get off the tax exempt rolls. Hopefully that'd be the case. Towards that end, one of the things we did, and that was requested by Councilwoman Salyer, she wanted us to explore the possibility of a location that was part of the Homeless Alliance campus. So that's why we were continuing this last meeting. That meeting took place. Don Burke met with a couple of people from the Homeless Alliance. it was if we were to do that deal with the Homeless Alliance, then the referral center would have to do a 180-degree shift in what its business plan is. That is all about public funding, taking in people who have no funds, getting public money to support that project. And that is exactly what Referral Center does not want to do. It's been operating for 31 years with some public funding, but now we want it to eliminate it and go strictly privatized. It's going to be spending well over $1 million. Now, you've got in your packets a copy of the rendering. Now, I'm not going to say this is going to be an exact duplicate of what's going to be built on the ground, but it's awfully close. And for the life of me, I can't see why anybody, these people who are in protest, would be objecting to have this type of facility on site. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Burke. I'll let him fill you in on some details that I don't have, and we'll be here to answer questions if you have any. Mr. Burke?
I think Bill's done an exceptional job of explaining.
Excuse me, let me slow you down. Can I just have your name and address for the record so that we... Thank you.
Don Burke. I'm Chief Executive Officer of the Referral Center. My address is 1535 Classen Drive, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73106.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, Bill has done an exceptional job of explaining what the Referral Center is and is not. Of course, I'll entertain any questions that you have. I'll entertain any questions that you may have. To go into greater detail about a few things, I would like to add that we do not address homelessness at our facility. We address substance abuse. Specifically, it's medically supervised detoxification, so it's people that are at risk of dying, to be quite frank. So alcohol, benzodiazepine, these kinds of substances, as they begin to leave the central nervous system, put individuals at risk of their central nervous system shutting down. We have medically trained staff as well as doctors and nurses that are on site 24 hours a day. We work every day of the week, every day of the year to help people. We don't have any complaints from the Asian community, which is we're right at the gateway of the Asian district over on 25th and Classen. We're looking at basically creating a TRC2 in the downtown area on 1st and McKinley. We're not going to add to any transient traffic down there. Our facility is by invitation only, by an opportunity to be assessed and to be admitted. Our hours of operation for those kinds of assessments are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We don't allow people to just leave our facility. Like I mentioned, they're under medical supervision. You can't just walk out of a hospital. We're not a hospital, but we do provide that level of care. And so if you were to leave our facility, we would make sure that a loved one came and got you, or we would put you in a taxi and make sure that you get to your next location. Any questions?
What is the capacity of your facility?
Currently, we have a 48-bed facility on 25th and Classen.
And your intention here, if you build a new building?
Is about the same size, 48 beds, 45 beds.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How do you, all your clients referred, is that what it's called, a referral center?
It's called a referral center because once we medically stabilize an individual, we refer them to the next level of care. You can't get to the next level of care without having our seal of being medically stable.
And how do they come to your facility?
They come from all over, physicians, their attorneys. There are a few court referrals, but that's not our population that we serve. The individuals that come into our facility must be voluntary. We don't hold people against their will. Does that help answer?
So the court referrals are also voluntary?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And Bill, I believe, mentioned you're shifting or have shifted your funding source to where you're now like 39% private. So that's basically pay-as-you-go or insurance.
That is correct.
From the clients.
In 2006, we invested about $363,000 in our facility on 25th and Classen to include a private unit. So we have professionals from the Oklahoma City area that spend 10 days with us, and they pay for the special care and the amenities that we provide for them.
You're maintaining your 25th Street location. This is an additional site, right?
Yes, sir.
We do have 3 people signed up, commissioners, to talk to us. Mr. William McNichol first. And since there are 3 of you signed up, I'm going to ask that you not repeat what someone has already told us. We'll be looking for new information from each of you. Your name and address, please.
Well, I have lived and worked in this neighborhood for the last 30 years. I know what goes on down there.
What's your name and address?
William J. McMichael.
And your address?
2308 South Penn.
Thank you.
Okay, I've lived in this neighborhood and worked in it, owned property in it for over 30 years. I think I pretty well know what goes on down there. And already in this area, we have the Jesus House at 1235 West Sheridan. We have a Homeless Alliance at 1724 Northwest 4th. We have the Salvation Army on Northwest 7th and Virginia that covers a whole block. Matter of fact, they're getting ready to build a whole new facility on the west side of Pennsylvania and 10th Street. We have the Rescue Mission. We have a new one that's getting ready to go in. I think it's called the Transition House at 1136 West Main. Now then, from their own, the referrals house own information, they don't have any lockdown on these facilities. There's nothing to keep their patients or recipients or whatever they call them from roaming around. On top of that, these people are suffering from self-inflicted diseases. And we find the people down there from all of these facilities that's panhandling, begging, stealing anything they can find. They're squatting on vacant property, trashing it out, vandalizing it. They have no respect for anybody else's property. I think we have enough people like that down in our area already. On top of that, Oklahoma City is probably a very benevolent place. Matter of fact, it's known all over the whole country as a place for these people because we're easy pickings. And I can see why we got all of these places right here in one spot. And not only one spot, there are other places also. And from their own information, they say, we do not detain patients against their will. There's not a lockdown in their facility. So what's going to keep them from wandering around the neighborhood? Anyway, we collected 59 signatures of people that work and live in that area that don't want it down there. I have a question. Would you chaps like that in your neighborhood? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming down.
Anybody else? Yes.
Brian Sigmund. Brian Sigmund, not here? Lady Red Elk, if I got that, if I'm reading, Lindy Red Elk, if I'm reading this correctly?
Basically covered everything I was going to say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any further questions of Mr. Collins or?
Just one,
Mr. Chairman. I understand this is a voluntary program, but he raised the issue a minute ago. Mr. McNichol said, these people are going to be out roaming around. I understand it's voluntary, but could you tell us what type of security you have for the facility to prevent that, or if you have any?
As I mentioned previously, we have staff that are on site 24 hours a day. We also have internal and external camera systems with 24-hour video monitoring. Does that?
Thank you.
Okay.
But theoretically, someone could leave at any time if they chose, because they're there voluntarily. So.
That is correct. Very rarely does that happen.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm not allowed to just go out for an evening stroll.
No, sir.
If I leave, I've left, basically?
Exactly. And we will contact the police and make sure that we take a great deal of pride in being very private. As Bill mentioned, he's worked in the area for many years, and most people don't even know we're there. That's for a design purpose, and that is to protect the anonymity of the people that are there. Most people drive by the 25th and Classen all day long and don't even know that we're over there. And so we protect ourselves and we protect our clients.
I have a question about the facility that you have at, 25th and Classen?
Yes, sir.
Is that it? I'm just going to ask you the question, have there been a number of complaints about transient people in and out of that facility, complaints of the neighbors that might be there? This is a renovation of the Asian district that's going on. Have you encountered any objections from neighbors about what you do at that facility, or any police calls, et cetera? That can be checked, but I'm just asking what's going on with that facility that you've had for how long?
We've been at that location since 1986, and we've had no complaints from our community members or business leaders or anybody. In contacting Chief City, we did get a traffic report of the number of calls. Those calls were all generated by our facility. We don't allow any shenanigans from our consumers. So the police contact that we've had and the ambulances that come out there is to take care of our customers, to make sure that we continue to be a good neighbor.
Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioners? Motion?
It's in my ward. And I sincerely appreciate the statements made by the neighbors, property owners, and the protesters that were in this packet about, not in my backyard. And where am I? But I'm convinced in the reading that I've done, and your explanation about what the facility is, particularly the fact that on 25th and Classen, you've been functioning for a long time, and the building that you're going to be building, I'm assuming, is representative of what the photographs that we've seen, or the images that we've seen, is that the neighborhood itself is probably appropriate for this kind of facility. If you were putting in another facility similar to Jesus House or the City Rescue Mission, I would say no. I'd say that doesn't get it. But this is a different type of treatment center. I think that it probably will improve the neighborhood once you do the building and once you do the houses, if you do that next door. So I would move in favor of this application.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 16. Cast your votes, and it is approved.
Item 17 is PUD 1479, application by Jerry Guest to rezone 3151 Northeast 10th Street from R1 Single Family to PUD 1479 in Ward 7.
Hello, my name is Jerry Guest, 3307 Northeast 10th. I'm the applicant for the rezoning of 3151 Northeast 10th Street from R1 Single Family to the PUD 1479.
Mr. Guest, are you in agreement with all the technical evaluations in the staff report?
I am, sir.
Mr. Guest, I understand that at the last meeting, we continued it so you could meet with the residents and Councilman Kelly. How did that meeting go with the residents?
It went very well. We had, I would estimate 7, 8 people there. There was an effort to get more people. They put out flyers in the neighborhood, went door to door from what I understand, but there was nobody that showed up. It was unanimous that they approved of what our efforts were going to be to expand our fence and the manner that we were going to go about it. There was no dissension.
Okay.
And it was attended by Mr. Skip Kelly, too.
Okay. As the chairman asked, are you in agreement with the T's, technical evaluations? Because I'd like to pay very close attention to T number 1 concerning the fence, the metal fence. The fence is up now. We can't do anything really about that, but it's kind of in disrepair and it's uneven and it's kind of coming apart. They don't have a cap on the top, so it's kind of unsightly. It's all uneven. So I really want you to pay close attention to that T number 1 where we ask you to cap the top and make it level and straight and this type of thing.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I'm looking at the right case, James, it's not TE number 1. But
I was looking at the unfavorable conditions, number 1.
All right. All right. Well,
yes.
no, it's in the TEs already. It's there.
T3, I believe. T number 3.
Yeah.
It's covered in T number 3.
Right. And Mr. Guest has agreed to it. So take a motion, James.
Make a motion that we approve the application.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve item 17. Cast your votes. And you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can't remember.
Item 18 is a request for a comprehensive plan amendment for Braxton, which is a proposed new development north of Reno and east of North Frisco Roads. I'm going to have Sarah speak first. I admire your enthusiasm, Mr. Fox.
Hi, Sarah Welch, Planning Department. I'm here, yes, like Russell said, to discuss the request to redesignate an area of land, approximately 80 acres, north of Reno Avenue between Frisco and Cemetery Road. The request is to basically extend our urban development area. Currently, the land is designated rural, and the request is to take it to urban development. This is concurrent with the next 2 items on your agenda, which are the rezoning and the preliminary plat of Braxton. What I'm showing you now is the land use map that you're very familiar with. The area that we're looking at is on the southwest side of the city, just south of Yukon. It's highlighted here. As you can see, the area that we're looking at is the area that it just hugs that urban development line. The request comes because there was a request for Braxton, which was a request to take the zoning from AA to R1 to accommodate a single-family development. It's in the rural area, so we asked the applicant to please submit a request to have us review not just the subject site, but if we found that the subject site were appropriate to redesignate to the urban development area, then we would expand our analysis and try to figure out where that line should be drawn. Some of the things that we take into account when we review a request for a comp plan amendment are the zoning, the existing zoning. We look at compatibility with the surrounding area. We look at impact on city services, water, wastewater, traffic, schools, roads. And so as you're looking here, this site is not currently served by water or sewer. The area on the right, which is shaded, is urban development. As you can see, it's been developed up to R1 densities, which is completely appropriate in our current urban development area. To the west is the rural area, and this request would this request for the specific zoning that you'll hear in a minute is to develop a single-family subdivision that would tie on to that area on the east. But we have some concerns about what pushing that line farther west would do in general. And I want you to really consider how approving a comp plan amendment to extend our urban development boundary will impact the surrounding area. Some of the concerns we have immediately were water. Our utilities department expressed concerns about water pressure in this area. Since your staff report was drafted, they have worked with the applicant and worked out a staggered schedule of development. But again, even if this site is served with water and sewer, I want you to strongly consider what that will do to create additional development pressure in this, in this area. With wastewater, the current comp plan draws the urban development line. It basically follows this ridge line that you can see on the screen. There is a ridge that breaks east and west. Now, the utilities department, along with their agreement to service the area, will allow the sewer to be extended, but they do have concerns that the area to the west and the north is not included in any wastewater study that they've completed yet. So just keep that in mind. We have traffic concerns. The comprehensive plan sets goals for level of service. It sets a goal for rural arterials to be a level of B, and for urban arterials to be a C. The intersection at Reno and Cemetery, which is to the east and in the urban development area, is already operating at a level of service D. And then just in general, I know there's other things that you'll consider with the next two items, with the rezoning and with the plat. But I really want you to think about what having that line means. It means that if we were to move it to the west, it's going to open up new development pressure. It's going to require the city to provide elevated levels of service, and it can impact the city's ability. And I don't just mean water and sewer. You have to think about road maintenance, police, fire, even our school systems. It impacts the city's ability to provide efficient services throughout the area we've already designated for urban development. So with that, planning staff's recommendation is to deny this request for a comprehensive plan amendment. Are there any questions for me?
I'm confused.
Sure.
Help me. When we did the Southwest Sector Plan, the line was drawn, as you said, down that ridge line. And the reason the line was drawn there, as I recall, was because water and sewer wasn't going to be on the west of the ridge. Now, if I understand what you're telling me, we're bringing water and sewer to the west of the ridge.
We've brought it to the east of the ridge.
Well, this is to the west of the ridge.
Right.
This is going to have water and sewer, is it not? The proposal would require that. Well, I understand, but where I'm going is if the city's bringing water and sewer there.
The applicant would be bringing water and sewer there.
Okay.
And they've already...
What's confusing me is I thought there was a ridge line here that precluded us from sewering that and getting water over there, primarily sewer, because of the ridge line. Now, we're saying, no, we can go west of the ridge line and have water and sewer. And what's bothering me is all the discussions we had back at the Southwest Sector Plan, the reason for not basically taking that line all the way to the city limits was lack of water and sewer. So, which is right? Which is correct here?
is this going to be sewered, and can it be sewered, and can it be served with water? If so, I think that's one issue. If not, obviously it's not fit for this level of density. But I'm confused.
Well, and I'm sure Kendall can talk about it. Apparently, it can be sewered, but you're right, that line was drawn based on that ridge line, and that line draws where city services were expected to be by 2020. So what we're saying is that in this particular case, which I'm sure Mr. Box will explain how unique it is, because they've already, what they're requesting to do is tie on to a very similar development. The one to the east is very similar, and they've sized their lines appropriately to service that area. So regardless of what you do with this particular application, what we're saying is that extending that water and sewer to the west is a slippery slope that opens the door to not being able to, I don't know how you'll say no to anybody else that comes in. And so the question then becomes, where is the appropriate line? And we would have to determine where that line is. We think the line's already appropriate. So we wouldn't know how to redraw that line.
The people doing the Southwest Sector Plan thought the line was all the way to the city limits was appropriate, except for that ridge that couldn't be breached. But now apparently the bridge can be breached. That's what's confusing me.
Well, and I agree. I was on the Southwest Sector team, and I remember these discussions, and we were, the reason this line was drawn where it is because we were led to believe that it was not possible to go beyond that ridge, and so we decided it would make sense to make the line there, in that area. So now, it sounds to me like maybe that's not the case.
Well, and keep in mind, there's already water pressure issues there. Utilities has said that. They've cited that. There's water pressure issues over the last 2 summers that have necessitated us the city making improvements to increase the water pressure in that area. So when you think about, now we're going to adjust that line based on some improvements that we had to go back and make because development was already allowed, then what happens is development moves further to the west with roads, say. The improvements that are coming stop at that intersection of in the urban development area. So as development moves further to the west, there's no geobomb projects out there to improve those roads. We'll have to, if development's going to start to occur out there, and if this opens the door to that, we're going to have to eventually provide road maintenance and perhaps widenings out there also. So I'm just trying to draw the big picture.
Well, then in the big picture, should we de-annex this?
No, it's, I mean, not every
Well, we're not going to do sewer, we're not going to do water, we're not going to build roads, we're not going to provide police protection, and we're not going to provide fire protection. Well, why do we have?
I'm not saying we're ready to do that. We drew that urban growth boundary to designate an area that we feel we have the capacity to service within a designated time frame. And that urban growth boundary accommodated 100 years of growth, and so to go beyond that means that we're throwing the plan out.
We're doing doublespeak here. I'm sorry.
No, we're not.
Right now, we feel this and we feel that. When we did the comp plan, we felt like the ridge was an absolute.
Wait, could I have a
We can't have it both ways.
We're not arguing.
You were talking about the Southwest Sector Plan that was instituted, right?
Right.
Okay, that's that. The comprehensive plan that we're dealing with here, the amendment to it, designated X to be urban development and Y to be agricultural. Isn't that you're mixing apples and oranges, I think. Southwest Sector, whatever you guys talked about, the ridge line, et cetera, I'm dealing with the comprehensive plan that was adopted 15 years ago that designated urban development and rural. Second observation is that if I were the choir, you're preaching to it, because the water pressure issue that you're talking about, the amount of water that we require, the pressure to get the stuff out there, the article in the today's Gazette about the Lake Hefner is something like 18 feet below what it should be. We're trying to get water here, water there. There's a water issue out there that I think that we need to be really aware of and not run willy-nilly to extend these services out into rural areas that have been designated as such. That's what. So I think the Southwest Sector Plan was one thing. The comprehensive plan is an entirely different thing that had urban development, which is Settlers Ridge, and here's AA. Am I wrong?
The comp plan that was adopted 15 years ago.
I know it.
Was amended by the sector plan.
Did that amend the plan?
Yes. Absolutely. That was the whole purpose of the sector plan.
Well, okay. So somebody has some information relating to this line, but still the line was this left side is agricultural, the right side is urban development. And I respect that.
And I respect that too, Bob, except the reason for the line being there was the physical ridge.
Yeah, that's what.
And the reason for that was, for not taking it to urban development at the time was because the ridge was there and we can't provide those.
Now wait a minute.
We can't get water and sewer.
What they're saying is we may not be able to anyway provide it because of water pressure issues, et cetera, because there's other factors going that way.
I understand, Bob. I'm striving
for what happened.
I'm striving for one voice here and one, not to speak out of one side of our mouth one time and then out of the other side of our mouth the next time, which just makes it appear to be we're willy-nilly and whatever we're feeling like today. There was a lot of study and work went into that, drawing that line on the Southwest Sector Plan, and the reason for it was not all the reasons that are being given today.
Well,
the reason was there was a physical ridge there, and we would like to go west of the ridge with all this development, but we can't because we can't get water and sewer there.
Well, I would hope that there was more than just whether or not water and sewer is present, that, to help make this decision. The Utilities Department has worked closely with the applicant, and they have worked out a staggered schedule so that I think through 2017, is that right? That they'll have to stagger their development through 2017. So our feeling is that this is not a slam dunk. It is not a slam dunk that the land use designation should be changed today.
But physically, sewer can go past the ridge physically?
Apparently, but, and again, Kendall will have to discuss that, but what utilities' concern was when they provided comments initially on our request was not whether or not it could be serviced. It was that they have not included that area in their wastewater plan, and they're going to update that again, and they prefer to do that after the new comprehensive plan is adopted. They haven't considered that area to the north and the west in their current plan.
Which is what we are endeavoring to do with other departments, is to work in concert so we're all on the same page. So.
Sarah, thank you. David?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Kendall Dillon and Dennis Box. I think it's important at the outset to look at the words of the comp plan itself for a guide as to what this land is appropriate to be developed at. The discussion about the ridge is extremely relevant. The reason this property, the Braxton property, was designated as rural is, as has been said, it was not thought that public services could be brought to the site. And so with that in mind, I want to read the comp plan, what it describes as a rural area. These neighborhoods lie beyond the reach of most urban services for the next 20 years or more. And as the city wastewater and water staff has agreed to service us, we do not fit within that. Not only are we going to be served within the next 20 years, we're going to be served with a staggering plan from day one. So when we next turn to what an urban area is defined as, the comp plan calls it an area which is served by the three basic urban services: public provided water, sewage, and fire protection. We're going to have sewer, we're going to have water, and there's a fire station 2.5 miles away. So next we need to look at what concerns the comp plan has, and as staff has said, opening the floodgates. And as Mr. Dillon will be able to get up here and describe, because of topographic issues, this is about as far west as it's going to go. It's not going to extend all the way to the city limits. And like I said, Mr. Dillon will be able to show you on a map exactly how far west, and it's minimal, if at all. So the next thing we need to look at is some of the public improvement projects that are already in place, regardless of our development. Mr. Dillon will be able to describe that in detail, but there's a booster station for water. The water service is already going to be upgraded for this area. There is a current plan for the sewer to be upgraded as well, and there actually is a bond project, 2015, to improve the intersection. So regardless of our development, this intersection, this area, is already going to be improved with urban-type amenities. So it's our contention that when you have these things, urban development is appropriate. This development lies just over a half acre within a mile from a Starbucks, a Target, a Lowe's, a major retail center. And I would submit to this commission that if you're served by all the public services and you're within a mile of a Starbucks, I would submit that is an urban development and is appropriate for urban development. Yes, sir.
I've got to ask the question. Where in our city code Starbucks listed?
It's not, but what I can tell you is the reason I mentioned Starbucks is because when we look at changing a comp plan, it's something that should be taken seriously. And one of the issues is, one, compatibility with your surroundings. And our contention is when you have all these public services and immediately to the east, immediately to the southeast, you have developments at a much higher intensity than our development is proposed at that were compatible. So the next phase of our analysis has to be whether or not the services are there. And as I've mentioned, they are. So then we need to look at what services, what our development might impact those services. And as Mr. Dillon's going to explain, we're not going to impact it. These services are already going to be improved, and we're just going to go into an area that is served by all the public services which the comp plan itself designates as urban. In fact, the staff report on page 4 states, the urban development land use designation is intended for areas of Oklahoma City that have full city services. So by the very terms of the staff report, we meet that definition. Therefore, we would ask this commission to grant us our comp plan change.
Questions of Mr. Box? We do have someone signed up to speak, Raymond Ballard.
If you would permit Mr. Dillon to explain some of the issues that we've addressed.
Okay.
Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll. Just real briefly in regards to some of the utilities, which we've had a lot of discussion, but specifically with the sanitary sewer. Obviously, and I don't know exactly which year the Southwest Sector Plan was adopted. However, at the time, I do not believe that the Settlers Ridge Edition nor the Summers Point Edition was there. And obviously, from a planning standpoint or even from an engineering standpoint, when you're just looking specifically at a topographic map that's not developed yet, it's hard to see exactly where those gravity sanitary sewers could extend. So the best you can do is take a look at a ridge line and say that's it. So I suspect in terms of urban versus rural, even at the time when it was adopted, had we known that it could have gotten this far over, that line would have been wherever we could have got the extension of the sanitary sewer to. I happen to be the engineer on Settlers Ridge Edition, so I designed it. Our company also designed the first phase of the Summers Point Edition. And keeping in mind and working with staff back then, we decided that we would lay a 10-inch line at a flat grade for capacity as well as for grade elevations, because you can lay it flatter, to service through the Summers Point as well as the Settlers Ridge Edition to make it as far back to the west as we could go. Now, what we've got now is currently the sewer is about 380 feet back to the east of this subject track's east property line. And I have already arranged for the easements. We've already got that worked out. In fact, you all approved a final plat of Settlers Ridge Section 6 a couple of weeks ago that actually brings the sewer right to the property line. So once that's developed, which is in a process, the sewer line will be immediately adjacent to it. But by the way we've designed it, it's designed where it will pick up this track and it will service it. We've met with staff. I've provided them with calculations not only for that tract, but there's a small portion to the north that we included those calculations. It's my opinion as an engineer, if you were to come into my office and ask me if the property to the west of this tract will sewer, I'll just tell you no. Because the sewer, the grade is, it's flowing, the groundwater or the surface is going back to the north and to the west, so your sewer is running out of the ground. So this is about as far as it's going to make it. If you're asking me if there's 2 acres in the southwest corner that maybe. But generally speaking, this is as far topographically as it's going to make it. We've worked with staff, and again, as per your staff reports, you'll see that they've agreed to provide a sewer based upon us adhering to the standard criteria that we do on every subdivision that we do in Oklahoma City. In regards to the water, there currently is a 20-inch water line that comes up to the water tower that sits on the south side of Reno. So the water line is at the southeast corner of this property. And there have been some issues or some concerns that staff has had. Again, I did the Settlers Ridge addition, so we've worked with them on that. But there's been some concerns about potential low water pressures at certain times during the summer. So we have gotten with staff and we've addressed those issues. A couple of things just real quick that we've agreed to do is with our Phase 1 final plat, we will take the water line and we will loop it through our addition and loop it back into Settlers Ridge so that it's a completely looped system. That helps with the pressure. It helps with water flow. So we've agreed to do that. We've agreed to construct a check valve at Reno where the water line, our water line would come off the 20-inch. A check valve allows you to increase pressure in certain areas, so it also addresses the pressure issue. There is it was a very temporary on wheels booster station at the corner of Reno and Cemetery. That now has been made into a permanent boost station, and I think is just about online today. They're about to finish up the construction on it. So we've agreed to do those things, as well as we've also agreed to stagger our lots. And the agreement you can read in the staff report, and this is based upon just an additional consideration to try to mitigate any potential pressure issues that might be there. So what is happening is I think it's included in your staff report, but the Utilities Department has a plan to continue to serve and to better serve the west side of Oklahoma City. So there's a water line that's currently being extended from Draper to service the tower, the water tower, that sits on the south side of Reno. And currently, it's either constructed or under contract to get that line to Southwest 59th and Portland. And then from there, there's a plan to either have it constructed or at least the contracts awarded to get it to the intersection of Reno and Sarah by 2015, and then over to the water tower sometime either awarded or constructed by 2017. So based upon the city's plans on providing more service to that area, we've agreed to go ahead and to just further mitigate or alleviate any concerns in terms of pressure and go ahead and stagger our lots so that our configuration or our staggering, we can have 60 lots with the final plat being recorded no sooner, 60 lots, the first 60 lots, no sooner than June the 30th of 2014, then an additional 60 lots that the final plat, and keep in mind, that's final plat, that's when there's not that many homes there, you start selling them, but another 60 lots by December, no sooner than December 31st, 2015, and then the remainder no sooner than December of 2017. So I think if you look at some of those issues that we've addressed in regards to our improvements, the staggering of our lots, obviously we've met with staff and now they're in agreement to services. So, another thing that I might mention is, let's just for the sake being on this particular tract, say that it's going to be rural and we come in instead with 70 one-acre tracts because it's rural and that's the way we're going. Well, your subdivision regulations still mention that if water was within a quarter of a mile, that it's still to be extended, water and sewer. So even then, coming out of the gate, we would plat 70 lots and we would still have 70 lots that would be supplied by water as well as traffic. So given the staggering and to allow some of those improvements to come in, we feel like, and again, staff has agreed to services. In regards to traffic, I think if you look at the existing traffic plus the increase in background traffic, the intersection will operate at a level service D. However, you'll notice in your staff report that the addition or the increase or our plat of 60 lots will not have an impact or effect, and it'll stay that. Again, if you have the rural estates, you still have the same traffic issue regardless of which way you go. But in this case, obviously as part of the bond project, it is scheduled to sell bonds and to start that project in 2015. So I think if you look at the staggering of our lots and you look at the improvements that are coming in essence, it's no different than 192nd and Western. It's no different than a lot of these plats that we've dealt with where there's public funds set aside and improvements planned. So, in regards to water, in regards to sewer, and in regards to traffic, we seem like and we feel like that we've addressed all those issues, that it's more than appropriate to ask that that line be moved a little further to the west now that we have better data and now that we have better engineering numbers and we know what we're doing. So with that, we'd recommend your approval.
So if we don't adopt this, we'd have a third as many lots, basically, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is all total, you'd have a third as many lots, but if you take into consideration coming out of the gate with the staggering, you have the same scenario, but especially once those improvements that are already on the board get in place, now we've made a better use of, in my opinion, a better use of the property in regards to better utilizing the infrastructure that is already planned to come, is the argument that I'm making. Because there's already plans to extend those water lines to this site, both traffic and water. And so those improvements are on the board and are coming. So to me, it makes sense, since we can physically serve it, let's add this 80 acres into that plan and better utilize it.
Any questions, commissioners? We'll get to you when we get to item 20, Mr. Ballard. That's the one you signed up for. But the answer is 209 lots, so that's at least part of the information you were interested in. Sure. Give us your name and address, if you would.
Raymond Ballard, 1700 South Richland Road in Yukon. My mom's property is across the road south of this place, and I received the notice to rezone it, but I never did receive the letter on the plat, the 6407. I had to get that from a neighbor, and I'm just wondering why I was left off the list on it, or...
I can't answer that. Theoretically, you would have gotten both, right?
No, the requirements for a notice on a plat are different from the zoning case.
Different legal requirement in terms of how notices are done for plats versus zoning, apparently?
I was told they have to send it within a 300-foot radius of the proposed property.
That's correct for zoning, but I think it's only 100 for plats.
Well, I'm one of the closest ones to it, so, but just across the street. But I was wondering what size houses and what type of houses would be built.
We don't know the answer to that, and we don't have any control over the size of houses as long as they conform to the zoning regulations and subdivision regulations of the city. So, I mean, smaller houses go on smaller lots.
These are bigger than, I think
that.
the plan is for larger than 6,000 square foot lots. I asked this question yesterday of Kendall. When I spoke with him, I think the minimum lot size that they're planning is 7,000 or something like that. So they're larger than a normal R1, 6,000, let me put it that way.
So we're not going to be able to answer that question specifically.
Okay. Can I find out a later date?
From them, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
Dennis.
Just briefly, Dennis Fox. I'm here with the younger group, and I'd like to talk to you about our application and how there's a couple of things that I think are important for you all to consider. When we appear before you all, one of the things that's always an issue that we look at is, do you have water and sewer within a half a mile? And why do we look at that? Because the subdivision regulations require that we hook on to water and sewer. And I submit to you that that is the definition of whether you're currently served. There's been some discussion here today about, well, no, we really aren't currently served because, you know, the water and sewer is in the subdivision just to the east of this property. And the answer is the subdivision regulations, in my opinion, really answer that question. And the answer to the question is, if you're within a certain distance, this city makes you connect if you can provide for that gravity flow and you can provide for water services. So it is currently being served. And the discussion in regard to the select area plan was accurate, and that is there was a line drawn, but that line was drawn under a set of facts that now have changed. And so with the change of facts, we think that the services provide for a different answer. There's been a lot of discussion here today about, well, you know, we really have some water pressure issues, we really have some potential sewer issues. I don't see anybody here from Public Works. And I can promise you, in my dealings with the Public Works Department, if they had issues with regard to the water or the sewer, they'd be standing up here saying, this is a big problem. This isn't a big problem. We've worked for months to resolve whatever questions they had. We've submitted the data, and based on the data, they are supportive of what we've asked for. The consequences in regard to approval, Kendall, I think, answered that question by telling you what could be served, which is going to be minimal, but I don't see anybody from police, and I don't see anybody from fire here, and if you'll look on your staff reports, they were given notice, and in fact, in the different reports, there's an asterisk, which, at least according to one of the reports, says no objection. So if you look at the map that David's holding, he talked about Starbucks. Well, Starbucks is up here, and we are not asking that you do something that would be negative for the city of Oklahoma City. What we're asking for is that you utilize the utility services that are available in an efficient manner that will allow us to take this property and develop it in accordance with the property that's directly next door. And so we're here to answer any questions, but I think it's telling that the people we're worried about aren't in the room, and the reason they're not in the room is they're supportive of what we're doing. Thank you.
Dennis, I agree with your definition of, to quote the TV show, "Are we served?" I don't think that whether water service is available or not dictates the zoning or the lot size or the number of homes. It just indicates that if you're within that half mile, you will connect and use water and sewer. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it dictates a zoning change. I mean, it makes it possible, to your point.
And that would be interesting to hook up to water and sewer and have 5-acre lots. Make no sense. 1-acre lots would make no sense. The subdivision regulations encompass a situation where if you have water and sewer, your average density would be anywhere from 3 to 5 units an acre. If you just have water, you're talking about half-acre to an acre. If you don't have either one, you're probably talking AA, and you probably have 5-acre tracts. So I think from a practical standpoint, not talking legal, but from a practical standpoint, I think it makes a huge difference. So thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioners, additional discussion?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts. And when this came up, I had a lot of the same concerns that have been talked about here. I think that I heard a very smart man explain something to someone earlier today, and he said the city's changing and we got to change with it. And sometimes we have to do that.
I didn't say it out loud, did I?
Yes, you did. The fact is that when we created the Southwest Sector Plan, this area was vastly different than it is now. Okay? This area that they showed in red here with all of the retail and the restaurants and the hospital, none of that was there. Okay? This area has just exploded. This is not a rural area. This is an urban area. Regardless of whether that little line between there dictates Yukon or Oklahoma City, this area is growing very quickly, okay? And it's going to grow, and I don't understand why. It's growing much more on the north side of 10th Street than it is on the south side. I don't know why Oklahoma City's not making an effort to capitalize on that growth, but it doesn't seem that we are. But it's slowly creeping across the city boundary there. But regardless of that, there is residential development going on in this area, and it's going on all over the place. I struggled with, are we doing harm in terms of utilities? I've talked to people out there. I know people that live in both of these neighborhoods that are on this boundary here. I asked 3 different people about water pressure, and they all looked at me like I was stupid. They didn't seem to think there were water pressure issues. That's not my opinion. That's just the response I got, okay? Maybe there are, and maybe they just hadn't experienced it, okay? The sewer was a concern, obviously. When we developed this boundary, we were led to believe that, you couldn't go any further than this, and it seems that maybe we have a little more knowledge now that we can go a little further. We may not be able to go much further, but we can go a little further and still have the sewer function the way that it should. I think that, and kind of to David's point that he made, I don't like to agree with David very often, but if I can walk out my front door and walk to a theater, or walk to Starbucks, or walk to Chili's, or to a restaurant and eat, it's hard for me to think of that as a rural area. And, I understand the strain with growth. I think this is one of those unique areas where you've got a very fast-growing urban area going on, and it just happens to be pretty far from downtown Oklahoma City. But Oklahoma City's got to deal with it, and that may mean, we know there are some plans to address some of the traffic issues in the next few years. We know there are plans to address the water issues, and given all of that, I came to the conclusion that I supported doing this, and that's kind of where I stand right now.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion to approve. Yeah.
Well, I will second the motion with this comment. I think it's, again, ironic, some of the things we say and do, but we preach all the time that we would like for services and infrastructure to lead development. And we criticize, especially in the northwest sector of town, how we're always reactive to trying to catch up with it. Well, in this situation, what I understand was just presented, the city has gone to lengths of doing intersection work, beefing up the sewer and the water deal out there. They're leading. The city's actions almost asking for this development. So with that, here we do have a situation where we're taking infrastructure and leading development, and I second the motion.
Any other discussion, commissioners? A motion to approve item 18. Cast your votes. 4-3.
This is just on the plan amendment, Dennis.
Well, but there's 2 other items, so.
I understand that the planning commission has the final say on the plan, so that, the other items, you can ask for that, but there was no action taken on this item.
Okay. You want to continue, or come back?
He can come back, he can come back, or he can proceed with his zoning case and his plat, and risk getting denied or being recommended referred without recommendation.
2 votes not here, too, by the way.
Right then, man, I can tell you how those go vote. I just assume
I would, too.
You say you would or wouldn't?
Wouldn't.
I would not either.
I mean, plan. I don't like being outside, too far out of my comfort zone. Personally, I don't think John would either. What do you think?
Sorry, you didn't have your mic on.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying, I'm not inclined necessarily to move on with the two plats.
Well, if we move on,
Opinion cases without the plan amendment.
if we move on with those, it's just,
We've killed it. Why did we waste our time with this?
yeah, I don't think it's appropriate. You know,
Yeah.
we can't get there anyway, so no, you know, obviously,
It's going to be the same.
we have a chicken and an egg deal here. It's regrettable that we didn't have more people here to vote it up or down. But that seems to be the norm of late, that we don't have a 9-member commission anymore.
Well, what are we going to do? What do you guys want to do?
Well,
I mean, tell us what, give us,
we'd like to
give us a
approve.
suggestion. Well, assuming the vote remains the same.
And what was, the vote was 4 for,
approval, 3 for denial.
okay?
And, you know, you'll have 2 more commissioners here 2 weeks from now.
Well, you won't. I won't be here next time.
Well, you'll have,
I should be here on the
you'll have
28th.
net 1 more commissioner here next time.
Oh, you may lose it. I'd continue it for a while.
I continue it 2 weeks, and I continue the companion items 2 weeks.
I'll be here on the 28th.
I mean, the companion items will not be approved. It sounds like.
That vote will be the same. We might as well just vote them.
Or
Yeah,
even
worse.
Yeah. I think the number, I think it'll reverse.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I know you have to have 5 votes if it's a zoning case. You think it's the same thing? Then I defer to your wisdom. I think then this will come up in 2 weeks automatically. The other 2 we'd like for you here, because we are ready to proceed on in regard to...
You want to hear the other 2 now, is what you're saying?
That's correct, because...
You may.
Pardon?
I say you may.
Well, wait a minute. What's your reasoning, Dennis?
Well, that way we don't, I mean, what's going to happen next time? There's certain people that aren't going to be here and are going to be here. You all then will have the opportunity in 2 weeks to vote on this matter.
Right.
Prior to the council hearing the zoning case.
I understand.
And so that makes the most sense. Now, on the plat, I need to talk to Kendall. Yeah, I think we want to proceed with the zoning, and on the plat, we will continue it.
Well, wait, which one's, all right, so you're going to, plan amendment will come up in 2 weeks. You have a zoning change you want to vote on, right?
That will process it to the council.
Right? And then you're going to continue the plat.
That's correct.
Do you have anything more to say on what he could call the zoning change? Do you have any more to say you want to say on that? I mean, I think we kicked it pretty good.
Well, we think it's, the whole test that you all looked at and ended up 4-3 is compatibility. I think there's no better rule of compatibility than to look at the aerial that we showed you, and the fact that conditions change, and the fact that we now have water and sewer, and have worked for months with the Public Works Department to get there, in our opinion, dictates the fact that the zoning is appropriate.
Well, I don't know if I could support the zoning change absent the plan amendment, personally.
You have to do what you have to do.
I understand. I mean, I'd prefer to have one in line than the other one makes a little more rational sense to me.
But here's the problem.
Frankly.
I mean, what's going to happen in 2 weeks?
I can't predict
Commissioner
that.
Gales isn't going to be here, and And understandably, maybe somebody else isn't going to be here, so do we get another vote like this? And if we do, our client is in a position of trying to work, and they've worked on this for months with the staff, so.
All right, I understand your logic.
Voting, the requests were on item 19 to consider the rezoning request without having approved the master plan amendment. So Mike is saying that without the master plan amendment, he won't vote for it. So we need a motion to, I guess, approve item 19.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 19. Cast your votes. And that is 5-2. That is denied. Item 20 is continued for 2 weeks, is that right? We need a vote on that?
But how long are you continuing the plat?
We'd like the plat to come up at the same time as the plan amendment, which I think is 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yeah. First meeting in, well, actually, the second meeting this month, the 28th of February.
A procedural note, the motion was disapproved.
All right.
So as it stands, it's still before the commission.
Yeah. We need an alternate motion.
You need an alternative motion to deny if you want to deny it. Zoning change.
Oh, I'll make a motion to deny.
And would you mind stating your reasons so when it goes up to council?
Sure, I would prefer to have...
doesn't conform to the master plan.
Doesn't conform to the plan, and I'd prefer to have the plan amendment in place.
And I will second the motion, even though I voted for the other one, and add the comment that the reason I'm going to vote for denial is so that it will be denied and can proceed to the city council.
Right.
A yes motion, Bob, is to vote for denial of the zoning. That's the motion. Got it? You look confused.
I'm totally confused.
So just vote, Bob, if you vote no, we're good.
To be consistent, you want to vote yes, is what Dennis is trying to tell you.
You need to vote
I can't
yes.
tell him that.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to try my own vote.
Did you really want to do that?
It's denied.
It's denied, 5-2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that was simple gamesmanship, folks, and we should never do what we just did. Shame on us.
Huh?
I said that was simple gamesmanship that we just did. We should have never do that, and shame on us.
I have no
This
idea
brings
what
us
we
to
did.
the point of Councilman Kelly's request that I was not in favor of until about right now. And now I believe he may have a point.
I don't get it.
We need a motion on number 20.
Bob, if you're opposed to this, you should have voted the other way.
Motion 20. We need a motion to continue item 20 for 2 weeks. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue item 20 for 2 weeks. Cast your votes. That's continued.
You didn't vote?
Nick, you didn't vote, right?
Comprehensive plan.
Okay. It's continued. Item 12 was kicked to the heel of the docket, and the applicant's not here.
No, they don't have no.
He's here now?
Well, actually, no. The applicant was unable to attend. However, he does agree with the TE.
Okay, let's look at item 12.
Given that there's only one TE, and we talked, doesn't seem like there's much here. I'll move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 12. Cast your votes. That's approved.
Items 21 through 28 have been continued. Item 29, you going to read that?
I think that's...
Commissioner, or Councilman Kelly has agreed to continue item 29 for 60 days.
So moved.
A motion and a second to continue item 29 for 60 days. Cast your votes. And that's approved. And 60. He's willing to, he's willing to reconsider the idea of putting forth that motion. Well, it's more than a little.
Incidental.
Planning Commission committees?
Nope.
Planning Commission members?
Nope.
Dan and I talked about issuing building permits where we have the bond out there, but the bondholder not really moving on that. And a suggestion is a way to, in the future, not keep issuing building permits in a situation like that, to put some pressure on the bonding company, is to have a subdivision regulation amendment, which would say that COs are not issued until all improvements are in place. But that was Dan's term, basically.
No, I think we want, that's currently what it says, the COs. The problem that we run into a bind now is that they can issue, the subdivision regulations permit them to issue building permits, but do not let them issue COs. So I get my house built now and I can't move in. Correct. We've changed the subdivision regulations. We can amend the subdivision regulations to say that a building permit won't be issued if that bond's been called.
Very good. We should do that.
That's a better answer.
Because what we're seeing here, and what I was asking about today, Dan, is obviously this deal is a rotten deal, and the bonding company's supposed to be putting up money to finish these deals, and courts ordered that, but they've been dragging their feet on the court's order. And that was my question. You know, what is our recourse? Do we go back to the court and ask them for a contempt citation?
Enforce the agreement, yeah.
Well, but the court's already made the order, so the court's next level is contempt, or?
Yes.
The thought I had was just, is there another avenue to put pressure on the surety company if the builders or home builders or lot owners just start saying, well, look, we're held up because you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, what we paid you to do. So I was just looking for another avenue. Through a subdivision amendment that Dan will draft and we'll have for introduction next week or 2 weeks. Planning Department?
Nothing today.
Development Services? Municipal Counselor?
Nothing, sir.
Citizen to be heard? Any other business? We're adjourned.
Okay.